Everyone, welcome to a 5 minutes or less where we take a topic, a verse, an idea, spend less than 5 minutes talking about it, giving you a starting off point to dive into it deeper on your own. And for this one, I want to go to 1 Corinthians 9:26. Paul's writing and he says, "So I do not run aimlessly, I do not box as one beating the air." Why does he start off with so? Because a few verses ago he's talking and he says, look, everyone who runs the race doesn't get the prize. He's using the very literal example of a race. And so he's talking about this idea of training ourselves for righteousness. And he brings it to this thought in 26 that I'll read again. "So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air." You run with a goal in mind. You run with the training in mind. In this case, in the metaphor he's using, you run to prepare yourself to win the race, to run the race well. And so the word I want to consider that I really think we see when you read this verse that jumps out to me is intentionality. Are we intentional with our lives? And this is in a couple different ways. One, we don't just do things arbitrarily. We've talked about this before. Nobody does anything arbitrarily, right? Like, you don't just wake up one day and you're like, hey, my car's running fine. It's paid off. Everything's good. You know what? Forget it. Let's just go buy a new car and trash this currently good one just for fun. No, we don't do anything arbitrarily. We buy a new car when we need a new car. We buy groceries when we're out of food. People are like, well, I did this arbitrarily. No, you really didn't, because you go to the store and you're like, well, I wasn't planning on buying that snack food. Yeah, but you at least knew what kind of snacks you like, right? So you're like, I'm going to get a snack food, and you didn't grab a box of plain oatmeal. You grabbed the chip flavor that you've gotten before. So there's always a degree to which everything we do is intentional. I want us to think intentionally about what we intentionally do. Okay, let's continue this example. I'm going to the store. I'm intentionally going to the store. Great. But how are you thinking about that trip to the store? Bring it back to what Paul is talking about, the metaphor he's using. If you back up to all of 1 Corinthians 9, he's really talking about surrendering his right to live as he would live, because he's an apostle of Christ. Like, I'm a prisoner of Christ. My life is for the purpose of his glory. And so everything I do is intentionally for the glory of Christ. That's how we need to approach life. We need to not just be thinking, okay, I'm going to the store, but why am I going to the store? I'm going to the store to advance the kingdom of Christ. Like, we need to be intentionally looking for and planning on and anticipating how, and if necessary, creating opportunities to all of that advance the kingdom of Christ. There needs to be this very specific mindset of, what am I doing with my time so that I'm not just running aimlessly, so that I'm not just boxing the air pointlessly. For some of us, that may mean we need to be a lot more intentional with how we schedule our time. We need to be a lot more intentional with, okay, what am I doing and we've done past videos on time. If you're curious as to how Christians should think about time, we've got resources on that we'd love for you to watch and consider as well, right? So with this idea of redeeming time, am I intentional in the way that I and my family steward our time? Okay, I want to be able to support missions more. So am I intentional in managing my kind of splurge spending or, impulse spending so that I can do this with my money down the road? I want to be better at evangelism. What are the excuses that I use to keep me back from evangelism? Am I intentional in overcoming those excuses and those obstacles? We've talked about ownership. We've talked about the apostles' responsiveness, and I'm not saying we're going to link all these videos or anything, because we could easily tie this video, intentionality, to pretty much everything we've ever done, right? But when I was interviewed for this position, one of the words that I brought up with the search committee was intentionality. Like, I want us to be an intentional church where we don't just do things to do them for the sake of doing them. We do it because we've considered the question, what is the goal of this? How will this advance Christ's kingdom? And so if we want to be that as the church, we're going to need all of the church members to be intentional. And if we want the local church to be part of something bigger than herself, the Big C church, then we need to all be asking ourselves, how am I being intentional for the glory of Christ? Or am I just running aimlessly? Hope this challenges you, encourages you, pushes you to think about something maybe you haven't before, and we'll see you next time.